A billionaire CEO walked into his own company, but nobody recognized him. And that's when the real test began. Westwood Enterprises, a billion-dollar empire built on ambition, efficiency, and power. Every employee here knew the golden rule: play the game or get left behind. But today, they were about to face a test they didn't see coming. Because among them walked a man who didn't fit the mold, a man they would soon regret underestimating. He didn't wear an Armani suit. He didn't carry a briefcase, and in a building where status meant everything, that made him invisible. The whispers had already started, the assumptions, the quiet judgments. No one knew who he was, but they were all convinced they knew what he wasn't. Meet Ethan Calloway, the kind of man who thrived in corporate warfare, smart, ruthless, and completely unaware of the storm he was walking into. Ethan had no idea who he was talking to, no idea that he'd just made a mistake so massive that it would define his entire career. The warning signs were there, the small glances, the uneasy shifts, but arrogance has a way of blocking out reality. And Ethan, he was about to learn that the hard way. A simple assumption can cost you everything. And for one overconfident manager, it was about to cost him his career. In the world of corporate dominance, power isn't just earned, it's displayed. The right suit, the right watch, the right words, spoken at the right time. To survive here, you had to play the game, and no one played it better than Ethan Calloway. Ethan wasn't just another corporate climber. He was a shark, sharp, strategic, and convinced that he was always the smartest man in the room. And today, he was about to make a fatal miscalculation. His first mistake? Thinking power only looked a certain way. His second? Assuming that the quiet man in the corner wasn't a threat. In a company where perception was everything, Ethan had been trained to spot weakness. And to him, the man sitting alone with an outdated laptop wasn't just unimportant. He was in the way. He could have asked questions. He could have waited, but arrogance doesn't wait. It assumes. And Ethan? He assumed that respect was something only given to those who looked the part. But respect isn't about appearances, and today he was about to learn that the hard way. The warning signs were there, but arrogance has a way of blocking out reality, and Ethan? He was about to learn that the hard way. There are moments in life when fate gives you a chance to stop, to rethink, to reconsider. Moments where, if you're paying attention, you might notice the weight of the silence around you. Ethan Calloway? He didn't notice. The eyes of the office were on him now, watching, waiting. But Ethan wasn't looking at them. He was looking at the man in front of him. A man he saw as an inconvenience, a distraction, an outdated relic in a place built for the future. What he failed to see was that the relic in front of him wasn't just another employee. He wasn't just some consultant. He wasn't a man to be dismissed. He was the foundation of everything Ethan stood on. And with each careless word, each condescending glance, Ethan was pulling the ground right out from under his own feet. But arrogance? Arrogance doesn't listen. Arrogance doesn't pause. Arrogance believes it's untouchable until it's not. And Ethan was about to crash straight into a reality he wasn't prepared for. The veteran employees had seen it before. The quiet power, the controlled patience. They knew that when the man in the leather jacket finally spoke, it wouldn't be loud, it wouldn't be angry, it would be final. Ethan? Ethan was still laughing, still comfortable in his own world, where authority came with a title and power was measured in prestige. But he had no idea that the rules he lived by weren't the ones that truly mattered. And now he was seconds away from the moment that would define the rest of his career. Oh, what happens when the man you've been mocking walks into a boardroom, and takes a seat at the head of the table? Power isn't about words. It isn't about expensive suits or the way a name looks on a corner office door. True power, real power, doesn't have to announce itself. And right now, it was walking toward the boardroom, one slow step at a time. Ethan Calloway had spent the last hour building his case. He was confident. He was prepared. A well-rehearsed speech about efficiency, about numbers, about why employees who didn't fit the company culture should be removed. He believed every word. And yet, as the doors to the boardroom swung open, every single voice in the room fell silent. The man Ethan had dismissed, the man he had mocked, ignored, spoken down to, he was here. But this time, he wasn't just another underperforming employee. This time, he took a seat at the head of the table. The CEO stood, adjusted his tie, and then, in a tone laced with undeniable respect, he said the words that shattered Ethan Calloway's world in an instant. "Ladies and gentlemen, meet Clint Eastwood, the majority shareholder of this company." Ethan's breath hitched. The color drained from his face. The words slammed into his chest like a freight train, but the boardroom was dead silent. No one spoke. No one moved. The only thing he could hear was the echo of his own mistakes, replaying in his mind like a cruel joke. The laughter, the arrogance, the way he had spoken down to a man who, at this very moment, held his career in his hands. Power doesn't have to raise its voice. It doesn't have to demand attention. Because when real power speaks, the room listens. Ethan Calloway wasn't listening before, but now he had no choice. Leadership isn't about power, it's about wisdom. And right now, Ethan was about to get the lesson of a lifetime. There are moments in life that change everything. Moments where the world tilts, and in a single breath, the ground beneath you isn't as solid as you thought it was. Ethan Calloway had just stepped into one of those moments. Minutes ago, he was the most confident man in the room. Now he felt like a stranger in his own office. Clint Eastwood sat at the head of the table, his fingers resting lightly against the polished wood. He didn't speak right away. He didn't have to. The silence did all the work for him. Ethan tried to breathe, tried to steady himself, but his body refused to cooperate. He could feel the weight of every eye in the room pressing down on him, judging, waiting, watching. "Interesting proposal, Ethan." His voice was quiet, measured, the kind of tone that didn't need to be loud to command attention. "You want to cut employees who don't meet your standards. Let's talk about standards." Ethan swallowed. Hard. For the first time in his career, Ethan Calloway had no words, no clever responses, no strategic maneuvers. The man sitting across from him had stripped him of all the power he thought he had, with nothing more than presence. And then Clint leaned forward, just slightly, just enough to shift the gravity in the room. "I built this company," Clint continued, "not with spreadsheets, not with board meetings, but with people. People who were willing to work hard, people who understood that real success isn't measured in profit margins, it's measured in respect." Ethan sat frozen, his mind racing. He had spent years believing leadership was about dominance, about taking control, about being the loudest voice in the room. But now, sitting across from a man who had built empires without ever needing to shout, he realized how wrong he had been. "A company is only as strong as the people behind it," Clint said, "and today I saw something troubling." He let the words settle, let them sink in. "I saw fear, Ethan, not respect. Fear." Ethan's throat tightened. He wanted to argue. He wanted to fight back. But there was nothing to say. The truth was right in front of him, and it was undeniable. "Leadership," Clint said, "isn't about barking orders. It isn't about making people afraid of you. It's about listening. It's about understanding that the value of a company isn't in how expensive the suits are, but in how you treat the people wearing them. Silence, a pause long enough for Ethan to feel the weight of it pressing down on his chest. "You judged me by my appearance, Ethan," Clint continued. "You assumed power looks a certain way, that respect is something that can be demanded instead of earned." He shook his head, slow, deliberate. "That's not how the real world works." Ethan exhaled slowly, his hands gripping the edges of his chair. He could feel his own reflection staring back at him, and for the first time, he didn't like what he saw. He had spent so much time trying to prove himself, to be the smartest man in the room, to be the one in control. But real power, real leadership, it didn't need to be proven. It just was. Ethan Calloway had been given a lesson today, one he wouldn't forget. But the question was, had he learned from it? Redemption isn't given, it's earned, and today Ethan had a choice to make. The silence stretched, long enough for the weight of the moment to press down on Ethan like a slow-moving avalanche. The boardroom, once his stage, now felt like a courtroom, and he was on trial. Across from him sat Clint Eastwood, unmoved, unshaken. The quiet authority in his eyes didn't need to demand respect. It already had it. Ethan's mind raced. There was no escaping what had happened, no clever justification, no way to undo the words he had said, the arrogance he had displayed. He had played his hand, and now? Now he had to live with the consequences. Clint leaned back in his chair, fingers tapping lightly against the polished surface of the table, and then, finally, he spoke. "I could fire you, Ethan." The words weren't loud, they weren't aggressive, but they landed like a judge's gavel slamming down on a verdict. Ethan's breath hitched, his fingers curled into fists under the table. He had known this was coming, but hearing it out loud made it real. "But that's not what this company is about," Clint continued, his voice even, controlled. "We don't just throw people away because they make mistakes. We give them the chance to learn from them." Ethan lifted his eyes. He wasn't sure what he expected to see in Clint's expression: disdain, anger, maybe even satisfaction. But what he saw instead was something worse: disappointment. "So here's what's going to happen," Clint said, locking eyes with him. "You're being demoted, effective immediately." The words hit like a punch to the gut. Ethan's stomach twisted, but he didn't dare speak. "You're going to spend the next 6 months working under someone who understands leadership," Clint continued. "Someone who knows how to treat people with respect." And then Clint turned to Maria. "Maria," he said, "I've been watching you. You stood up when others didn't. You saw something others ignored, and this company needs more people like you." Maria's eyes widened. A sharp inhale, her hands gripping the chair like she might wake up from a dream at any moment. "Starting today, you're stepping into a leadership role," Clint said. "Ethan will report to you." The room was silent. A collective breath held. Ethan felt his world tilt. Just minutes ago, he had been untouchable. Now? Now, he was answering to the very person he had dismissed as insignificant. Power doesn't just shift in grand moments. Sometimes it moves in the quiet, in the unexpected, in the simple act of giving respect to the right people. Ethan Calloway had spent his career believing leadership was about control. But today he learned it was about something much greater: respect, humility, and the understanding that no one is too important to learn. As Clint stood to leave, Ethan swallowed the last of his pride. He had been given a choice, a second chance, and this time he wouldn't waste it. A reminder that leadership isn't about titles. It isn't about power. It's about how you treat the people around you. And sometimes the person you underestimate the most might be the one who changes your life forever. If you love stories about power, respect, and unexpected twists, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We bring you captivating life lessons through incredible storytelling, so don't miss out. Like this video, drop a comment, and let us know what you would have done in this situation. More epic stories coming soon.